Hey guys, welcome back. I figured that I would take a quick look here through the squad with you for the first time today before we really make any other choices or any other decisions. So I'll just go ahead and whip open Football Manager here for you. We can take a look at this together. I actually, before I realized that I wasn't recording this part of the screen correctly, I went through and made a couple of changes. So I always like to have the assistant manager take over friendly matches because I can't be bothered to do that. When it comes to training, here we go. I want to take over that as well. We'll have another video later on today about the training schedule. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The rest of this stuff, I mean, I always take control of media stuff, usually contracts. I'll worry about that. Here, it doesn't really matter because this is an amateur team. So, I mean, whatever. Like, I don't know. I'll take control, I guess, of assigning scouts. I mean, so it is. It doesn't really matter because we're not going to go scout other countries because we don't have any money. And then like staff stuff, I mean, I'll take control of that. That's no problem. I've done it before. I did it with prior saves where I had the computer take control of all this stuff. I mean, while it can happen, usually the computer won't make the best decisions for you. So, I mean, we'll go ahead and do it. And just so you know, when we look at the finances, of course, we have zero transfer budget, zero wage budget. We have a little bit of scouting budget, which is interesting. And we have a positive balance here in the team. I did stick this over to euros. I was thinking about which currency to use, and I figured that one would probably be the one that is most recognizable for the most people. And as you can see in terms of like the projection, we do have a positive balance projected. So maybe we can become semi-professional at some point in time. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how long we end up staying here. We'll see what things are like. So what I did, first of all, I'll show you here, is I took all of the players that were on the under 18 squad and put them over onto the senior squad. So when we take a look at this and look at how big our squad is, it's actually bigger than it was in my last save. There are 38 people overall, which is more than we had with BYU. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. That's probably a good sign. I have to create a tactic before I can set up the squad planner. So we were going to look at this today before I think we take a look at the tactic. So that's probably the thing that we'll end up spending the most of the time here looking at, just sort of seeing what position everybody plays and get kind of like a general understanding of what we're going to do. You can see that in terms of central defenders, I mean, I guess we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, kind of 6. And here, I'll make this a little bit easier for us to look at. So we sort of have 6 central defenders. I haven't put anybody's faces on at all. We'll do that here probably in a sec, maybe before tomorrow, maybe as part of the series of episodes tomorrow or something like that. We'll figure it out. Most of the players you can see are teenagers. We only have a couple of players who are a little bit older. Again, if you're new to all of this, I play in what I call hardcore mode, which is why you don't see any star ratings anywhere. So if we go look at like Mark Loki, we don't see any star ratings at all. We do have this information from the coach. So he is unambitious, doesn't like big matches, and is inconsistent. However, because I have turned off transfers for the very beginning part of the game, there are no there's no first transfer period for us. We're probably going to have to make use of him anyway. Might not have the required ability or potential, so we might not. I don't know. And they're just saying that he's a decent player for the level. We'll go through that slowly and get an idea of who our first team is going to be. Looking at the back, I mean, I was toying around with the idea of doing sort of like a 3 at the back with wing backs. We're probably not going to do that because we don't have much in terms of wing backs. We're probably going to end up doing 4 at the back because it looks like we have players who would probably fit into that sort of formation. And then interestingly enough, we do have a number of wingers here in midfield, which is not kind of what I was expecting. And then we do have wingers on the right and on the left, and then a number of strikers. So we'll play around with this a little bit and see what we can figure out. We're probably, if we do have a defensive midfielder, we'll only have 1 because we only have 2 to choose from, and we can't really go out and get anybody else. So it might be kind of an interesting looking setup. I'll need to look closely and see like these players that are listed here, who's better than whom. So Poyo Famoana, I don't know if this guy's any good or not. The easiest way to tell when you're playing in hardcore mode is you just go over here to the coach report, and that'll tell you. Might not have the required ability or potential, is not very good. In contrast, Corey Nortney is an exciting young prospect way off first team level. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We want to have more players who are exciting, who are good, who have some sort of positive thing written about them, as opposed to these guys who have negative things. Han Jong-sung, how do we have a South Korean player in Samoa? This is interesting. And he also might not have the required ability or potential. He looks pretty good to me. Maybe we will play with him. And let's see what his information is. Yes, he is American Samoan and South Korean. Don't ask me how that happened. That's interesting. And his English is fluent, but his Korean is basic. So that's really interesting. I kind of wonder what the story is behind him. We'll have a lot of interesting stories like that about these guys when we get through it. My suspicion is that when we go through and look at these players, okay, this guy's a fringe player. He was, 24 years old. We'll probably notice that the older players end up having more problems and don't look quite as good, and the younger players end up being a little bit better. So we'll see what we do with them. We'll see what we figure out. That's kind of what we're looking at first. I mean, we're not going to need to have, 5 goalkeepers and like 5 or 6 strikers or whatever. We'll whittle it out and we'll figure out which players look like they have the most potential. And that's probably who we'll go with. And then we'll have a bunch of other guys to sort of stick on the side or maybe to loan out or something like that. We're probably not going to loan anybody out. We're probably just going to see a lot of players leave on a free transfer. That's the other thing about this, right? I mean, I'm not even sure the lack of a transfer window at the very beginning of the game probably won't make a difference for us. So one of the tricks that you can use is you can find other players from around the league who are also on amateur contracts and just sign them for free. We'll get into that a little bit later when we start really piecing things together for the squad. But just know that there are little tricks that you can do to win in these types of situations, or at least be more competitive than maybe you should be. Let's see what else we're going to look at. I wanted to look really quickly at sort of the schedule and the competitions and sort of see what we're looking at here. So see here, it's not a huge schedule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 matches overall. And it's only in the senior league. That's all that we have. We don't have any other cups to worry about or any other ridiculousness. We'll look through the rules. You have 20 games. The teams play each other twice. 3 matches for win, 1 for a draw. And if you get first place, then you qualify for the OFC Champions League, which should be on here, I think. There we go. Yeah, and here is the OFC Champions League, and we have nobody as part of it. Anyway, this is what our goal eventually is going to be. I don't think that there are any teams from American Samoa who are in it, and part of the reason why is because we should be part of the way through the Champions League season. So if we look at stages here, there were stages beforehand, and let's see if we have anybody from American Samoa. I don't see any team that meets that definition, so maybe that we didn't have anybody qualify at all. Anyway, so it is. I don't know if this is supposed to fit in with real life or not, but in theory, if you finish first place in this league, you should be able to qualify for this competition. We'll see what happens. That's going to be kind of our goal right at the beginning, and that's probably what the ownership is looking for. So people have told me that they are not very impressed with this, I suppose. I actually think this looks pretty good the way that it is now. Yeah, they want a top half finish. You can always click on View More, and it'll show you exactly what they want, and you can split this up by year. So they want to maintain a top half finish in the league. I think we should be able to do it. So you can see, again, with this schedule, 20 matches is not too bad. It's July now. These matches start in August and go through November. Again, when we look at the Champions League, and of course, I shouldn't have done that. The matches for the Champions League also take place right around August, so that would kind of overlap with our season, which is another good thing. That way we're not talking about players being on holiday and then having to bring them back to play these matches. So it works out pretty well, I would say, for us so far if we were to get to that point. But we'll see. First, the first things first is to try to do as well as we can in the league. And as part of that, to try to snipe as many good players off of other teams as we possibly can. It's going to be a pretty interesting thing to go through. As you know, when you look at my profile, I have like nothing at all. I can ask to start in a coaching course. We'll see if the board let me do that since I just got here. I am barely 19 years old and have like no knowledge of the world other than the United States, which is extensive. And so we'll see how this goes. It's always fun to start one of these saves off like this. You just never know what's going to happen. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow we're going to go through, we'll sort of slap together a little bit of a tactic. I don't have any sort of like great expertise in this. I was going to spend a lot of time going through like the the usual suspects, view from the touchline and people like that. We might have to do this slowly as time goes through because I might not have the time or the energy to read through a whole bunch of stuff all at once and kind of make something happen. So maybe we'll learn together. How does that sound? Anyway, there you go. And this is what the save starts off as. See you tomorrow with some tactic building. Bye.